Hello everyone, and welcome to a little creator's commentary, an artist's commentary actually, on the drawing of a page from Ellie, the Eliminator, issue 2. Now what I like to do when I'm doodling up my comics, I always do all the pages in sketches first, and then I go back, ink over them, and then I go back and color them. But for this one in particular, I decided to do a little fun speed draw, so I decided that instead I would ink and color it in one go. And unlike the first issue, this was actually done with the help of vectors. I've never used vectors before this, and boy, do I regret never having used vectors before this, because I had not realized how much easier it was to draw with vectors. I mean, just the ability to move around the lines, the ability to erase where lines overlap, that's just, it eats up so much time, and it makes drawing everything so much easier. So not only did it help improve Ellie the Eliminator 2, but it also made it so that it took even less time to do Ellie the Eliminator 2, and more time to do more pages rather than shrinking the story. So of course this is a full page spread, and I figured that if I was going to do one of these speed draw videos with commentary, it should be something that's big and nice to look at. Although while a lot of full page spreads are like very visually pleasing or showing a lot of detail, sometimes landscapes, this full page spread in particular is focused on just creating a sense of bigness. So the whole joke behind this is that Ellie is trying to decide on a hammer to eliminate Calvin with, and her boss keeps on saying, bigger, bigger, because you know he only wants the best tools to eliminate his arch enemy with. And eventually it just gets so big that it takes up the entire page to show how big this hammer is. So a lot of full page spreads will like focus on detail, focus on landscapes and other cool things, but this one, it's just a full page spread for the joke alone, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think it helps with the comedy, and you know, that's the whole idea. The series itself is pretty simple, not just in story of course, but in art style alone. It's part of the whole reason why I'm able to do this all on my own. If the art was heavily detailed, then it would take years to finish these issues, while as right now it takes, you know, a few months. Or like 3 months. It's not super bad at all, and I'm overall pretty proud with how they've been turning out, especially this second one, because I think there were some mass improvements. Some of you may have noticed that the character designs have actually been simplified even more from how they were in issue 1. And in issue 1, I was kind of still figuring out how exactly I wanted the characters to look and like how much detail I wanted to include. And by the time I got up to issue 2, I really wanted to keep up the pace more than anything, and definitely simplifying the characters would help keep up the pace and keep these issues getting pumped out. But also I think that this is a type of series that can get away with that super simplified, more cartoonish art style, and maybe should have a more simplified cartoonish art style because of its cartoonish nature. So I think that it was an overall good decision that I chose to simplify things a bit. In most cases, simple is better. You can see that I was trying to play around with the McDonald's colors for a bit, and in the end I decided I should be taking something from Ellie's color palette for the hammer. And that's how I ended up with the pink and yellow, because of Ellie's yellow eyes and little yellow thingies on her antenna. Do those have a name? I don't know. And of course the pink from her sweater. And I think that turned out to be a pretty good choice. It definitely beats the McDonald's red and yellow, because that, you know, red and yellow, that's like stuff used for futuristic stuff like rockets and things like that. But I just could not get McDonald's out of my head as I was looking at it, and it just didn't seem like Ellie's weapon. It just didn't seem like it belonged to her. So I don't actually have like a set color palette that I really use in Ellie the Eliminator. What I usually do is I just like pick the colors that I liked the most that I used from the first book, and then I stuck with those colors for the second book. I was really playing around with the colors a lot in the first book, and I think probably too much to the point where the colors were hardly ever really that consistent. So this one I definitely wanted to fix that and make it a little bit more consistent, a little bit more professional, so to say. And of course, we get the evil professor over here. He doesn't actually have a name in the story yet, or at least not one that I'm sharing with the audience. He's a funny character. I mean, I think that they both, the evil scientist and Calvin's future self, they're both really funny how they interact in the series, because it's basically just them communicating, telling, you know, Calvin's older self telling his younger self what to do, and then you have the scientist telling his robot what to do, and they're both just kind of silly, spiteful characters that are using Ellie and using the younger Calvin to solve their disputes for them, instead of just like walking up to each other in the future and working out their problems with each other. They're just kind of using these two as their medium. But something you've probably noticed about these two guys after reading this series and learning a little bit more about them as we go along is that neither of them are really nice guys. You know, I say evil scientist, but he's not that much more evil than the older Calvin necessarily is. They're both kind of mean guys. And they're both kind of acting out of spite in this situation. Of course, the one thing that pushes the scientist a little bit over the edge is the fact that he actually wants to go back and destroy the younger Calvin to prevent him from ever even having a future, while as Calvin just kind of wants to protect himself. But I can tell you with great certainty that there is a reason why the scientist is very bitter, and it's because Calvin is not actually a very nice guy in the future. But I won't give too much away. I guess it is kind of a plot point in the series, kind of how I wanted to end it whenever I do finally end it, but I don't want to end it anytime soon. I really want to get a lot of issues out there, probably as much as I possibly can before I go for a series finale. Because I really enjoy writing this. It's like, it's simple, it's fun, it's silly, it's everything that I miss from modern cartoons. And this is kind of like my way of giving a little bit to the world. Giving what I had lost. My poor, poor childhood. But anyway, that should wrap it up. And there's what the finished piece looks like. Of course, I'm sure you've seen it if you've read the comic or seen posts that I've made of the comic. I am actually pretty proud of how this series has been going. I hope I find time to make more. Of course, I am going to be taking a little bit of a break from producing more issues because I wanted to work on some other projects and focus on drawing in different styles, aim for my more adult audience. But I do plan to come back to Ellie the Eliminator with a 3rd issue and possibly campaign to get them all printed. Get like a 3-issue bundle on Indiegogo for people to back, but who knows when that's coming. Maybe by the end of next year. So if you're interested in seeing more Ellie the Eliminator, definitely like the video. Let me know what you think down below in the comments section. And I'll see you next time. Bye!